Hi, everyone, and welcome to episode 44 of the Impactco podcast. Thrilled to have you back again with us. If you're listening for the first time, thank you for tuning in. We'd encourage you to subscribe, to let us know how the platform is impacting you today with this episode. I'm thrilled to be joined by Simone Naicker, who is a Acting Senior Metallurgical Engineer, and she's also an international mining industry speaker and thought leader. You are for sure going to learn a lot from her today, as I will, and I'm thrilled to have her here on the show today. Simone, good morning to you on this wonderful Saturday morning. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm great. Good morning, Tafa. Thank you to you and the listeners. I'm just looking forward to being in your space today.
Awesome. And thank you for being a part of the Impactco community and the Impactco journey. We start off typically by just getting to know a little bit about you. So why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself in terms of where you're from and where you grew up?
Yeah, so I obviously South African based, and I grew up in Impangeni, which is a very small town, not really on the map, but you won't hear it in the weather or the news reporting. They always talk about the capitals and the weather there. You kind of have to interpolate to your location to determine the temperature, but it's okay. Yeah, so Impangeni is a very small town. It's near Richards Bay, which has a very large industrious and mining community. That was essentially where I grew up. And if I take a look at the journey thus far, I studied at the University of Pretoria and did my chemical engineering degree there. And after that, jumped into the workforce in 2018. And I'm sure, as everyone, who goes from university into the workforce, you get like the biggest shock of your life that it isn't really what you thought it was. And you adjust, and you definitely don't start off by walking into the plant with your textbooks saying, okay, this is what we need to change. So I think we're continuous learners, and I think that's something I appreciate about Impactco, is that what you're saying is that no matter where we are in our journey, we are continuous learners ourselves, and being continuous learners, we can share what we've already learned so that other people can learn from that, and then also we can receive and learn from those ahead of us in whatever field or journey. So yeah.
No, absolutely. And I think it's quite a transition, right, from varsity to the working world. You're quite right. It's nothing like what we would have imagined. Certainly the textbooks gather dust nowadays. So you like me are a minor, in the sense that we were both in the industry. We're often painted, as chemical engineers or as engineers or as people in industry in general, as maybe being a bit, boring, in the sense that we're not, the sort of, we don't have like a sort of, interesting life as
personality.
Yeah. Not sure where that comes from, to be honest, but I would like us to dispel that a little bit. Tell me a little bit about what you like to do for fun.
Yeah, so to be honest with you, it's been a range of things over the years, and most recently I've decided that I'd like to become more adventurous specifically. So in last week I took a week of leave, which I think, as millennials, that's so daunting to do in the first place. You'll ask any Gen Z and they're like, you deserve your leave. Take your leave. But if you ask a millennial, we were raised in guilt cycles, and the whole generation is different, right? So in last week I went paragliding, which is great. So I jumped off Signal Hill and I was just there in the sky, and it was amazing. And something else crazy that I did in last week as well was I went shark cage diving. So I jumped into a cage in the ocean with the sharks, and I'm absolutely petrified of sharks, and it took me forever just to peek under the water to see one. But I can say that was an amazing experience. But before my adventurous phase, I really was into writing. So like you, Tafa, I'm a communicator. I love people. I think that there's just so much valuable conversation out there and stories, and I'm just like so excited to share and learn and talk about them. So I really feel like you're my soul animal.
Yeah, I think we've dispelled the theory. You know, I think we've dispelled the theory that, you know, we're boring. We're not. And I think everybody listening to this is probably like, yeah, you guys are very exciting people.
Oh gosh.
And I think, you know, one thing about the industry is you often, you know, go to mining towns, either stay, visit, work in. Quite curious, what's your favorite mining town that you've stayed in or visited in your career so far?
Yeah, if I have to say, I'd say it's Lephalale. So
Okay.
in Limpopo. Yeah. The heat, gosh, 43 degrees, a normal summer day, but that's okay. The temperature is warm, but so are the people. And I think for me, that warmth and that love in the community is what I would come back for. It's peaceful, it's quiet. I don't hear the sound of traffic every day. And while, you know, we always say, oh, you're in a mining town, there's nothing to do, what. And the funny thing is, when you're in a situation like that, you develop community.
Absolutely.
You find friends and you decide, okay, we're going to braai, we're going to cook something different, you know. So I think Lephalale definitely.
Yeah. That's awesome town. I've been there before, and it's, you're right. It's blazing hot. But the nice thing as well is the winter is also quite nice there.
Yes, beautiful winters.
That is quite a bit. No, great. So let's talk about the future of mining in South Africa, and I think, you know, spreading out into Southern Africa and Africa as a whole. I think let's start at the beginning. You know, firstly, tell me, you know, what attracted you to go into the mining industry in the first place? And I'll you know, preface this with the fact that, you know, I think people sort of in our generation and the generations beyond are less and less people are sort of going into the industry as engineers and so on. People are, you know, getting attracted to industries like investment banking, as an example, consulting, and so on. I'm quite interested in terms of what attracted you to the mining industry in the first place.
I think, you know, when you're a high school student and you're good at maths and science, your teachers will naturally gravitate and direct you towards certain careers. And unfortunately, I feel that the career guidance and limitation is insufficient, because I feel like we do not give high school learners the opportunity to make good decisions, because they don't have enough knowledge. You know, when you become an adult and you're in industry, you say, okay, I will be hesitant to make a decision because I don't have enough knowledge. But as a kid, you don't have the confidence to make that statement first, and you don't know what you don't know. Right? And the thing that made me choose engineering was the analytical skill set that I had, and just the capability. And I don't know if that's a good or a bad reason, but that's the truth. And once I went into varsity, I realized, okay, now I'm surrounded by people who are also good at math and science. What differentiates us? How do we think differently? And based on that, you know, you go through your course, and if anyone tells me they studied engineering and breezed through, I will absolutely laugh, because it is not a breeze, and it is difficult. And you find your struggles and something in at least one module in the course. And when I finished, moving into mining was obviously the next natural step, because I had a bursary with Exaro. And I was fortunate enough, and I would recommend to anyone, you know, if you can get a bursary, do it, because as much as it seems like an obligation to work for that company afterwards, it's actually a privilege in the South African context. Absolutely. So yeah, I was motivated to get into engineering and mining, specifically because if the degree took me there, and the reason I wanted to get into the degree was capability. So maybe not really linking the two end points, but that was the journey.
And I guess, but you know, building onto that, for the layperson, and our listeners range from, you know, different backgrounds and industries and so on. So there may be people who are, you know, wondering what's with this mining thing, you know, what's you know, so for that person who maybe is not in the industry, doesn't know much about it, well, why do you think mining is important in South Africa and Southern Africa as a whole?
So Southern Africa, South Africa, you know, we have incredible mineral wealth. I think that is what I would like to say. We have incredible mineral wealth. If you go to, I don't know where, let me think of a good example. If you go anywhere in the world, you'll know particularly that particular country is good at this, or is, known for that. And our claim to fame as Africa is our mineral wealth. We have incredible resources. So mining as a whole is important in a global context because you can't pick up anything that has not been mined. Everything around you, the actual device we're using currently to engage, the minerals used to build this came from mining. And I think so often we think, okay, mining, these people are digging in a big hole somewhere, but that mineral gets processed into our everyday items, your phone, your TV, your, things that you wouldn't even think of, have had a process engineer touch, a little bit of a miner's touch. So mining is important because we need those minerals to create materials that we can use. And that's just one part of mining. I mean, electricity generation, as much as South Africa's maybe not doing it the best at the moment, you need incredible mining resource for that. So currently at South Africa, about 30% of South Africa's energy generation is produced in the Lephalale area by the mines here that produce coal. So I genuinely, mining is, I always say it like this as well, like if you start playing a game that will mimic, or what's the right word, a game that will simulate real life, the first thing you need to do is find water, shelter, and food. But once you've done that and you want to become industrious, you start looking to the ground for natural resources such that you can burn and use and generate electricity. So I think that mining is old. It's not a new field that just came about. We've been doing this a very long time as people.
Absolutely. And I think you've really touched on quite a few important points there. I think, one phrase that comes to mind is if it's not grown, it's mined. So
yes.
Ultimately, everything that we touch, if it isn't grown in from the ground, it's probably mined out of the ground. So that's where everything pretty much comes from. So it's it's an incredibly important industry in South Africa and Southern Africa as a whole, and Africa, as you rightly so mentioned. So you're a speaker on topics such as sustainability, and I think this dovetails quite nicely with the previous question in terms of how can the industry tie in to the Sustainable Development Goals, or the SDGs. And what does the industry need to do today to be able to tie into that?
So I was privileged enough to be part of the United Nations Global Compact. So there's a South African division of that, and they have a Young Leaders program. So their WISE program. And in that program, I was privileged enough to learn about the SDGs. And I think that was, for me, already amazing because I realized how much I don't know. They're not these pretty little colored boxes that we put in the corner of our slides to, say that we're addressing the world's problems. They're actual genuine problems. And there's documentation that really states in detail what each of those things are and how to address them as well. And I really think that as a mining industry, we have not tapped into the United Nations SDGs well enough. And the reason I say that is because there's a lack of understanding. If you go into all the sustainability reports of many mining companies, you'll see that that SDG focus, maybe it's a one-pager, but that real depth and detail. Sanda, who is I stand to be correct, but I do believe she's the chair of the UN Global Compact. She said that there's trillions of rands in business value awaiting in the sustainability space, and that sustainability is good for business. And I think so often there's a perception, at least, that mining and sustainability don't work hand in hand, and it's that mining is doing what mining does, and sustainability is almost like pulling mining back and saying, whoa, not so much, not so fast, not like that. And I think that perception needs to definitely change, because renewable projects, for example, I know Anglo looked at their waste streams here at Moalakwena, and sort to see how can we turn waste into valuable product, even if it is for the communities or other places, and to sell that. So I think there's genuine business value in sustainability, and we just need to educate ourselves. Yeah,
it's something that needs to be unlocked, right? I think and already there are pockets of that being unlocked in value, and I think it makes it such an incredibly exciting space to be in, because it is, rapidly changing and something which I think, will continue to change as time goes on, and what a privilege it is to be part of that, and to be, as the wheel turns, to be, a big portion of that. So lastly, Simone, the phrase you've mentioned the phrase before, my tiara is my hard hat. I find that phrase so fascinating. And I really, really like it. Tell us a little bit about what that phrase means and
Yeah, so my tiara is a hard hat is a phrase that I came up with and I coined. So it's a little bit, it's kind of like my trademark. It's what people know me by. And it stemmed from something emotional, funny enough. And I think when something stems from emotion, you can connect with it and it makes it so real, right? So growing up, I have a mom and a sister. Mm-hmm. And in our household, they're the pretty ones, right? So they're great with makeup, they always dress well. I've had times where my mom would look at me like, people know me in this town, you can't come to town with me dressed like that. So very prim and proper woman. And I think I grew up, and like any girl grows up, you look at the Miss South Africas, the Zorzies, all of these beautiful women, and you look at them and you aspire to be like them, because they're put on this platform and said to be, this is what Miss South Africa looks like. This is and this is what we would herald a woman in South Africa to be. And me being a woman in South Africa, I'd look at that and say, that's what I should be. So growing up, I entered a few pageants. I did karate as well, so it's a little bit of a mixed bunch. And so I enjoyed the pageantry space, but I felt that it was lacking. And it just lacked some depth for me. And I thought about it, and with time and understanding, I realized that this tiara, or this idea of what a South African woman should be, and what it means to be valued as a woman in our country and in our context, that can change for me. And that this tiara that I so desperately wanted to achieve and have the glory of is actually in my car, in my boot. It's my hard hat, because every day I put that on and I go out into the plant and I add value. And I'm every day that I put it on, I'm stepping into a space where I'm assisting in energy generation for our country, which mineral, like any person working on any process plant, you're creating sincere value. And my tiara being my hard hat, it means so much to me because of the amount of budget, media, perception, the way society glorifies the tiara. We all know what a tiara is, but nobody thinks of a hard hat in the same way. It's always just, you're a plant operator, you're working on the floor, and that's where I learned the most. I learned the most as a plant operator. When I was working shifts and I was washing the floor with all the magnetite, that's where I learned real life lessons. Wearing that hard hat, washing the floor with the team. So I think just a change in that dynamic and a change in that perspective is just so important. And I think that's why I've coined the phrase, because it means all of that in a few words.
I love that. I think it's so powerful. It's such a powerful phrase, which I think shifts paradigms, in terms of how we think about it. And I think it's really empowering, to think about that. And thank you for sharing that and for being, I think an example of that in terms of how you add value, as well as, how you're willing to get your hands dirty and be in there, washing the floors, as you say, and learning those valuable life lessons. And I think it's extremely, extremely, extremely profound in the way that you put it. Simone, I want to thank you for coming on to the Impactco podcast. We have come to the end, and that flew by. I really want to thank you for coming onto the show, and I hope that you enjoyed it. We certainly, I think, have gleaned a lot of value from what you said, and I think it is quite inspiring to see a person like yourself, going through the industry, and finding your way through, and as you've mentioned, adding value, to South Africa, in terms of the work that you do on a daily basis. And thank you for coming onto the show and sharing some of the lessons that you've learned and some of your experiences. I hope you've enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, it was absolutely fantastic. So thank you to you, Tafa, and your listeners. And truly, sharing our stories is the way we learn, and we can learn from anyone. So if you're listening, you have a story to tell as well. I think all of us have learned life lessons, and it's important that we share them.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And to you, the listener, from Simone and myself, we want to say thank you for listening. We hope you've enjoyed the show. If you're listening for the first time, please do drop us a mail. Head over to our website, which is impactco.co.za, and do let us know how you found the episode. Otherwise, from Simone and myself, we would like to say take care and goodbye.
Bye-bye.